Hello everyone, welcome to the listening lesson for TOEFL beginner level. It's me again, nice to meet you all. Today, we continue our lesson with another type of question, which is inference questions. But, first thing first, let's check out some new vocabulary. So, I bet you already know what you are going to do, right? Yes, it's a matching exercise. You are given 3 minutes to match the word on the left with its correct meaning on the right. Are you ready? Let's do this. Okay, your time is up. Let's check the answers together. What about the first word? Circulate. So when a liquid, gas, or air circulates or is circulated, it moves continuously around a place or system. For example, blood circulates around the body only a few times a day. Now, the next word is density. So, it can be seen from the picture that solids and liquids have high densities because their particles are packed closely together, whereas gases have low densities because their particles are very far apart. The next word is vertebrate. Vertebrate refers to any animal with a backbone, including all mammals, birds, fish, reptiles, and amphibians. Then we have confidential. So, if documents or information is confidential, it means that it needs being kept secret and not shared with any other people. The word that follows is roster. So roster is a list of the names of people who are available to do a job, play in a team, etc. The last word is coordinator. So, coordinator is someone whose job is to manage and supervise to ensure that things work together well. Now, let's go over the words with me. Circulate, density, vertebrate, confidential, roster, coordinator. Very good job, guys! You have 3 minutes to copy down these words into your notebook. Now, for this kind of question, you need to obtain a number of necessary skills. First of all, you need to learn how to guess the implied meaning of a sentence or phrase. Then, you need to have the ability to make a generalization from what is said. Next, you need to be able to draw a conclusion based on the main points of a lecture or conversation. Then, you need to be able to recognize how intonation or stress indicates implying information or opinions. And on top of that, you need to be able to infer what is likely to happen from what a speaker says. So, there are some example questions for you to look at. Firstly, some inference questions will not appear during the test. You will only hear them, like, listen again to part of the conversation, then answer the question. Secondly, you will hear a few lines of the lecture or conversation again. For example, what does the professor imply when he or she says this? Thirdly, you will hear part or one line of the previous excerpt again. So, the following types of inference questions may appear during the test. For instance, what does the professor imply about something? What can be inferred about something? What will the professor likely discuss next? And what will the student properly do next? But how to nail the test with this kind of questions? So, here are some strategies for you to deal with them successfully. First, try to guess the implied meaning of the given information. The correct answer is not directly stated. Second, pay attention to clues expressed by certain words, word stress, intonation, or pace of what is said. The same sentence can express different meanings when said in different ways. For example, with this sentence, you will say, "Oh, you never heard of that," to indicate that I may need to explain more than I thought. But also with this sentence, you will say, "Oh, you never heard of that?" to indicate that I am surprised that you never heard of that. Lastly, you need to pay attention to the last part of a conversation. For example, if a speaker agrees with the other speaker's suggestion at the end, we can infer that the speaker will do what is suggested. Now, let's dive right into the practice section. The first topic you are going to hear is about environmental science. But, as usual, I want you to look at the diagram as well as the questions and underline the keywords if necessary. Okay, now you are going to listen to a lecture in an environmental science class. Fill in the diagram with the information that you hear. You will listen to the recording twice. Now, let's listen.
Chapter 7. 1. Environmental Science. Listen to a lecture in an environmental science class. Fill in a diagram with the information that you hear.
Now, I know everybody knows what a sea is, but I'm sure that if I ask around right now, we'd hear a lot of different answers about what features make up a sea. Another thing that a lot of people don't know about is that there are different types of seas. So, that's what we're going to go over. Okay, the first type of sea is called a Mediterranean Sea. And just so we're clear, although the Mediterranean Sea is an example of a Mediterranean Sea, in oceanography, we use the term to describe a sea that has limited exchange of deep water with the oceans. So, how does the water circulate? Well, it mostly depends on the temperature of the water, which moves the water from place to place. The density of water, due to salt dissolved in it, also changes as its temperature changes. The denser water sinks, pushing less dense water toward the surface. Some other examples of Mediterranean seas are the Caribbean Sea and the Red Sea. Next, second, there are marginal seas. These are really areas of the ocean that are somewhat enclosed by land. I mean, they may have some islands around that help define their boundaries. The big distinction to remember with marginal seas is that their currents are mainly caused by ocean winds. Some examples of marginal seas are the Bering Sea and the North Sea.
1. What does the professor imply when she says this?
Now, I know everybody knows what a sea is, but I'm sure that if I ask around right now, we'd hear a lot of different answers about what features make up a sea.
Two. What does the professor imply when she says this?
The big distinction to remember with marginal seas is that their currents are mainly caused by ocean winds.
3. What does the professor imply about the Mediterranean Sea?
Now, you have 3 minutes to finish off the task. Question number 1. What does the professor imply when she says this? So, what does she say? She says, now, I know everybody knows what a sea is, but I am sure that if I ask around right now, we'd hear a lot of different answers about what features make up a sea. So, the correct answer is B. People might not know the characteristics of seas. Characteristics here are the features. Question number 2. What does the professor imply when she says this? The big distinction to remember with marginal seas is that their currents are mainly caused by ocean winds. So, the correct answer is B. For the last question, what does the professor imply about the Mediterranean Sea? So, in the recording, it says, although the Mediterranean Sea is an example of a Mediterranean Sea, in oceanography, we use the term to describe a sea that has limited exchange of deep water with the oceans. So, the correct answer goes to option D. Now, I want you to look at the diagram. So basically, there are two types of sea. The first type is Mediterranean, and the second one is marginal. So, how does the water circulate? In terms of Mediterranean Sea, water circulates as a result of changes in water temperature and density. Speaking of marginal sea, water circulates as a result of ocean currents. So, what are the two key points for Mediterranean Sea? The first key point is that there is limited exchange of water with oceans and currents caused by temperature variation. For marginal sea, the first key point is that part of ocean with some land around, and the second key point is currents caused by ocean winds. So let's move on to the next topic, which is biology. Again, you have 1 minute to look at the diagram and underline the keywords in the questions. Now, you're going to listen to a lecture in a biology class, filling the diagram with the information that you hear. Are you ready?
2. Biology. Listen to a lecture in a biology class. Fill in a diagram with the information that you hear.
We've been talking about marine life lately. Today I want to talk about respiration. I thought it would be interesting to talk not only about what mechanisms allow organisms to breathe underwater, but how it's done on land as well. So, to get started, let's talk about breathing underwater, or aquatic respiration. Here's a thing to remember. There is relatively little oxygen in water. So animals that live underwater need a system that allows them to process oxygen differently from land animals. To do this, fish have developed gills. Gills allow organisms to extract oxygen from water. Later we'll talk some more about how gills work, but right now I want to contrast that information with a common system of respiration for animals that live on land. Since respiration is really just an exchange of gases, where carbon dioxide is swapped for oxygen, for simple, single-celled organisms, breathing is as simple as constantly being exposed to the air. For those organisms that have more than one cell, it's a little different. An example is vertebrates, which have lungs that allow them to breathe. Special cells in the lungs saturate blood with oxygen. Okay, let's contrast this with a detailed analysis of what happens in fish.
1. What does the professor imply about oxygen content underwater? 2. What does the professor imply when he says this?
Here's a thing to remember. There is relatively little oxygen in water. So animals that live underwater need a system that allows them to process oxygen differently from land animals.
Three. What will the professor likely talk about next?
Have you got the answers? 3 minutes for you to finish off the task. 3 minutes start now. Okay, your time is up. Let's check the answers together. Question number 1. What does the professor imply about oxygen content underwater? In the recording, it says there is relatively little oxygen in water, so animals that live underwater need a system that allows them to process oxygen differently from land animals. So the answer is B. For question number 2, what does the professor imply when he says this? So the evidence in question number 1 is also the excerpt for question number 2. What is your answer for this question? B. Congratulations! Now for question number 3. What will the professor likely talk about next? At the end of the recording, the professor says, okay, let's contrast this with a detailed analysis of what happens in fish. So the correct answer goes to option A. Is your answer the same as mine? Terrific. Alright, I want you to look at the diagram. The diagram is all about the similarities and differences between respiration underwater and respiration on land. So first, what do they have in common? Yes, they both have the exchange of carbon dioxide and oxygen for respiration underwater. It requires gills to take oxygen from water, and in terms of land, it requires organs such as lungs. Can you guess what the next topic is? Yes, it's about office hours. Let's have a quick look at the questions and underline the keywords if necessary. Okay, you are going to listen to a conversation between a student and a professor, filling the diagram with the information that you hear.
3. Office hours. Listen to a conversation between a student and a professor. Fill in a diagram with the information that you hear.
Hi, Professor Cope. I know your office hours are almost over, but I really wanted to talk to you about something.
All right, but let's make it quick.
Sure. All I wanted to do was ask if it would be possible for me to switch my group discussion section to another one.
Which of the two are you currently in?
I'm in the Friday section that starts at 10 a.m. It's led by, what's the teaching assistant's name? Oh, Laura.
Would you mind if I ask you what the problem is? Obviously, it's completely confidential, but if it could help me coordinate my teaching assistants better, I'd really appreciate it. I want to make sure they're getting the job done.
No. It's not Laura at all. In fact, she's great. It's just that I have another class that starts at 9 a.m. It normally wouldn't be a problem since the class officially ends at 9:50, but the professor just keeps going on and on. I just feel bad always showing up to the discussion group at least 10 minutes late.
Oh, I see. Let me just make a note of it in my roster. So you'll be changing to the Thursday night section with Bill.
1. What does the professor initially assume about his teaching assistant? Two. What does the professor imply when he says this?
All right, but let's make it quick.
3. What does the student imply when she says this?
It normally wouldn't be a problem since the class officially ends at 9:50, but the professor just keeps going on and on.
Okay, if you're still considering which option is the most correct one, you still have time. 3 minutes for you to finish off the task. Now, let's check the answers together. Question number 1. What does the professor initially assume about his teaching assistant? So, can you hear this? I want to make sure they're getting the job done. The correct answer is A. Question number 2. What does the professor imply when he says this? He says, alright, but let's make it quick. So he means C. He does not have much time. Question number 3. What does the student imply when she says this? She says, it normally wouldn't be a problem since the class officially ends at 9:50, but the professor just keeps going on and on. So, the correct answer is B. Did you get all the 3 correct answers? Awesome. Now, I want you to look at the diagram. So what is the problem here? Yes, the student is always late to the discussion section. Therefore, the solution to this problem is switch to another discussion section at a better time. Okay, now let's move on to the last topic of the lesson today. So, you are going to hear a conversation between a student and a university employee. Fill in the diagram with the information that you hear. Before listening, you have some time to look at the questions. Now, listen to the recording twice. Are you ready? Let's get started.
4. Service encounter. Listen to a conversation between a student and a university employee. Fill in the diagram with the information that you hear.
Hi, I'm Marilyn, the housing coordinator. Can I help you with anything?
I was told to come here about a problem I was having. It's not really a problem, it's just something I have to take care of soon.
Okay, so what exactly do you have to take care of?
I was assigned a great room. It's really nice and all, I really like the private bathroom and the closet space is great.
You know, usually we don't have students coming in to talk to us about how great their rooms are. I have a feeling that there's a complaint somewhere in there.
Well, like I said, Barber Hall is really great, but...
Wait, did you say Barber Hall? But that's a girls' dormitory.
Exactly, which is a shame because it's probably the best housing on campus. But I'm assuming that there was just some mistake in the computers and I was assigned to the wrong dorm.
Okay, let's fill out a change of residence form. I know I have them here somewhere. Hold on just a sec. Here it is. All you have to fill out is the top part. And please make sure to put your student identification number on there. Otherwise, the only way we'll have to track you down is by looking for the only man in Barber Hall.
Okay, this looks pretty straightforward. Oh, wait, do I really need a copy of my Social Security card? If I do, I'll have to go back to my room to get it. I don't usually carry it with me.
Oh, since you've already been assigned a room, you're already in the system. That's fine. You can leave that line blank.
1. What does the woman imply when she says this?
You know, usually we don't have students coming in to talk to us about how great their rooms are.
Two. Listen again to part of the conversation, then answer the question.
Wait, did you say Barber Hall? But that's a girls' dormitory.
Exactly, which is a shame because it's probably the best housing on campus.
What does the student imply when he says this?
Exactly, which is a shame because it's probably the best housing on campus.
3. What does the student imply when he says this?
Oh, wait, do I really need a copy of my Social Security card?
Three minutes for you to write out your answers. Okay, now it's time for the correction. For question number 1, what does the woman imply when she says this? You know, usually we don't have students coming in to talk to us about how great their rooms are. So it means that most students come to the office to complain. Question number 2. Listen again to part of the conversation, then answer the question. What does the student imply when he says this? So, what does he say? Exactly, which is a shame because it's probably the best housing on campus. What he means is that he would have liked to live in the dorm. The correct answer is A. Question number 3. What does the student imply when he says this? Do I really need a copy of my Social Security card? By the way, he says he does not usually carry it with him. So with this question, it means that he is surprised by the requirement. The correct answer is C. So, in the recording, what is the problem with the student? Yes, student was accidentally assigned to room in Olga's dormitory. And the solution to this problem is housing coordinator helps him change the rooms. So I think this is very familiar to you, right? Yes, it's the homework. So your job is to listen to the recording again and complete the 4 summaries. This is the end of the lesson today. By the way, don't forget to do your homework, okay? Have a nice day and goodbye for now.